Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my channel. My name is Bailey. Today we're talking about my least favorites of 2020. And that's gonna be interesting. Just like I did with my favorites video, I'm gonna be doing these in order of when I read them. None of these are like my least favorite, like there's no order to them or like ranking, but different ones that upset me more than others. And we'll go into that. Let's not waste any time because I tend to ramble, so let's go. First off, we have fan art by Sarah Tregay. This is a YA contemporary. Basically, this book takes place during these kids' senior year, and it follows a boy named Jamie, and he starts getting feelings for his best friend, whose name is Mason. And it's about coming out and being gay. And I hate this book. I gave it 1 star. I think this book is disgusting. It's written by a straight author, and it shows. There are just so many stereotypes used and interesting language, and also it just perpetuates harmful stereotypes about gay people, but also about women and like lesbian women. There was like lines in this book that were like lesbians and straight women, like they love gay men, like they just love gay men, and like kept reiterating this point where like women are obsessed with gay people. That's a bad thing. If you're a woman who's obsessed with gay men, get help. Like, I feel like Sarah Tregay is obsessed with gay men. I can kind of tell from the way she wrote this book, but not everyone is, okay? Let's not say that. I think the representation was just, like, fetishy. Like, the attitude I was getting from it was very fetishistic. If you want to read something like this in the sense of, like, it's about a teen guy, you know, coming out, realizing his affections for guys, whatever, read Simon vs. Homo Sapiens Agenda. It's at least way better than this because the attitude isn't as so slimy feeling. Also, Becky Alcantara recently came out as bi, or like last year came out as bi, so it's not a straight author writing about queer characters, which is always a relief. This was just not great. I don't really have much else to say about it because I don't remember much of the plot anymore because I read this a while ago. I also borrowed this from my friend, so that's why I have a copy. I would not want this in my collection at all, so I want to give this back to her as soon as possible because Next we have House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. This book is giant. This is the biggest book I read this year, and I also hated it. I gave this book 2 stars though. I have a whole ass video on this book. I think it's like 50 minutes long. It's a deep dive, and I'll link it wherever because I'm not gonna be able to go as in depth here as I did there because 1, I haven't read in a while, and 2, I don't want to. That video is so long, and actually it's my most viewed video on my channel, which is interesting. But the biggest reason I made that video is so that I wouldn't have to reread this when the rest of the series comes out because there's no way I'm gonna reread this. I'm just gonna watch that video and hope for the best. Basically, this book follows a girl named Bryce Quinlan. By the way, it's an urban fantasy, so there's like fae and vampires and stuff, but it's like a modern sort of society, like phones and apartments and TVs, like that kind of stuff exists. Anyway, this book follows a girl named Bryce Quinlan. She's a 21-year-old or like in her 20s, 21 to 25. She is chillin'. She's like a party girl. If you read this book, she's gonna tell you she's a party girl like 30 fucking times. Every chapter, basically. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So she lives in Crescent City, and there are these like brutal murders happening, and there's like a demon behind it, and she is tasked by the governor of this city to help solve the crimes with the help of this guy named Hunt Athalar, who is this like angel dude. I can't talk about this book without sounding so judgmental because I do hate it a lot. Bryce Quinlan, I liked her. I hate her now. I can't tell you why because it's kind of spoilery, but like something I really liked about her is that I thought she was going to be a contrast to Sarah J. Maas's other characters, her main characters, where she was like really normal and she was pretty mundane. That changes by the end of this book. Hunt is as interesting as a piece of untoasted bread. I literally hate him. Like, he's just a mixture of her other male characters in her other series, but like not even the good parts of them. He's just annoying. And mind you, this is her first technically adult book. No sex. There was no sex, and that is a very niche issue. I'm sorry, your young adult novels have like graphic sex, but your adult novel doesn't have a single sex scene, and you're gonna put it in a modernistic society, and there's not gonna be a single dick pic sent? I am not pleased, okay? Not pleased at all. That frustrated me. I'm going 800 pages waiting for like a wacky sex scene. Nothing. Nothing. Will I be continuing the series? Yes, because I feel like there's going to be porn in the other books. If there isn't, we really do need to be sending letters to Sarah J. Maas and asking if she's okay. Also, this book is literally just like pieces of mostly ACOTAR, just in a different book. Like, it's basically, a lot of it is just ACOTAR repackaged as Crescent City, which is, you know, a little frustrating. I would say read ACOTAR instead, where, like, this one is probably a little bit better written, technically, because it's, like, her latest novel. It doesn't have the charm of the other books, because, like, a lot of the tropes and a lot of, like, the character types she pulls in are a little bit tired, but if you read the originals, like ACOTAR or Throne of Glass, they have that charm to them, whereas when you're reading it repackaged again, I'm kind of sick of it by now, because I'm like, I don't want this anymore. I understand the flaws in it the first time you wrote it, and I've let it slide that time, but this time I just look at it and I'm like, ugh. The ending of this book rushed as fuck. Like, it was just going ding, 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 within like 100 and 150 pages. Like, 800 pages and your finale is going to be 150 pages of what the fuck? Like, it was just very frustrating. I think that's all I'm going to talk about with this book for now, because I have a 15-minute video on my channel and I don't really want to rant about this because I'm gonna, like, my blood is going to boil. I'm not gonna stop talking about this. I need to have one more point. This is new adult, or it's adult, but the characters are like new adults. No, they aren't. Hunt is like 300 years old. Why? I don't know. You finally have characters that are like adults, and you still have to make the man like hundreds of years old. Why? Why? I don't know. There's just so many logical fallacies in this book, and things that, like, shouldn't have happened. These characters should be dead, is basically what I'm saying to you. Also, Bryce acts like a child in some scenes, for no reason. It's kind of out of character. Don't know why that happened. I'm getting angry. I'm gonna put this book down. I didn't like it. Next up, we have Sinner by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the 4th book in the Shiver series. This is like the tack-on novel. It was a trilogy, and then, like, this later novel is tacked on. It follows 2 side characters, and it's bad. I gave this 2 stars. It shouldn't be 2 stars, but I'm not gonna change it. I'll let it have the extra star. What happens in this book? It follows Cole and Isabel and their relationship, basically. They lived in, like, this snowy place in America. I don't remember, was it Minnesota? I don't know. Something snowy vibes. And Cole goes to LA because he's a musician and he's trying to, like, do that. And Isabel also goes to LA for other reasons. No, Isabel goes to LA. He goes to LA to follow her, but then he does it under the guise of also picking up music again. Shiver, the series, is about werewolves, by the way. And my biggest problem with this book is that the werewolves are irrelevant. Like, there's barely any werewolf content, and them being werewolves, it doesn't even matter at all in this book. The characters sucked in this book. Well, not even Cole. Cole was fine. Isabel was a bitch for no reason, and the fact that, I'm gonna spoil this for you, but they end up together is just disrespectful. Isabel is so mean to Cole at all times. Like, she demands affection from him at times, but won't give him anything back, or basic human respect, basically, and it's frustrating. Did I even finish giving you a synopsis? No, because it doesn't matter. The first series, I liked Shiver, or like the first 3 books. I liked Shiver, Linger was fine, Forever was kind of boring. It kind of teetered, like, it kind of went bad, but I didn't hate the second 2. This book is bad. It doesn't even matter that there's characters who are werewolves in this book, because they never transform. It has no bearing on the plot, the werewolf thing. It's literally just relationship drama between 2 people who should not be together, because one is putting in way more effort and one is abusing the other, basically. It was also vaguely really boring. Nothing was really happening. Again, no werewolf stuff. It was just like LA drama, and I don't care. Let's just move on to Carmilla by somebody. I can't find the author's name. This is a novel adaptation of a web series. I haven't seen the web series. This book I gave 1 star. This book is about vampires, and it's written poorly. Like, first off, before I even give you a synopsis, the writing is abysmal. It's like, so, like, she said, he said, she went there, he went there, showing me nothing, telling me everything. This book follows a girl named Laura, and she's starting university, and her roommate vanishes. And so she starts this little web show. She's trying to figure out what happened to her roommate. And since her roommate went missing, she gets a new roommate. Her name is Carmilla. And Carmilla's acting sus. They, like, get involved. It's, like, sapphic. But even the sapphicness couldn't rescue this book from being abysmal. First off, this book just, like, plot holes forever. And, like, just general things, like, didn't make sense. This web show, she's like, it's anonymous, yet she's using her face. I don't know if you know the definition of anonymous, but like you can't be using your face and also be anonymous. Sorry about that, honey. And she's like, oh my god, I'm gonna post this web show, but like I hope the dean doesn't catch me, even though the dean already knew that she had the web show, so of course he's gonna catch you. It was just really dumb things like that where I'm like, you're in university, yet you can't put two and two together. I'm scared for you. Also, the vampire stuff was so clowny. Like, the roommate's a vampire. Like, Carmilla's a vampire. And it takes us like 100 pages to figure this out, even though she's drinking blood out of a carton of milk. Like, a carton of milk has been dumped out to be a carton of blood. And they're like, I wonder why she's doing that. You're seeing all this vampire stuff coming up and you're like, I wonder why my roommate's drinking blood. They see her in a picture from like 100 years ago and they're like, oh, she drinks blood and she might be really, really old? I wonder what the answer to that could be. And then like 20 pages later, they're like, oh, vampire. It was just painful. Also, they had the audacity to mock Twilight in this book. I don't think Twilight's a masterpiece by any means, but being this book and mocking that book is just a bold move, okay? Bold. Speaking on the LGBTQ plus rep, the sapphic relationship was boring, nothing much there, but there was a character in here who was non-binary, and the author misgenders them, and like not in like a purposeful way, where like a character will do it for a reason, like because they're being ignorant. But, like, in the, what is it? Like, when the book is telling you things, you know what I mean? Like, the narrator, in the narration, there's the word. The narration misgendered this character, and I'm like, oof. Like, I'm sorry, did you think you were doing something with the non-binary rep, but then also misgendering them? Nice. The web show might be good, but this book was not written well, and I don't think this should exist. Next up, we have the Disturbed Girls Dictionary by Nonika Ramos. It follows a girl named Macy, and she classifies herself as disturbed, and this is like her dictionary of words, and that kind of corresponds to experiences. The concept doesn't really make sense. Even like I've read the book and I still don't really understand the concept. But basically what's happening in her life is that her family, like her dad's in jail, her mom sucks, and her brother has been taken by Child Protective Services, and like her and her best friend are kind of on the outs. But then they fix it, but then she goes missing. It's really convoluted. I don't know. This book is, like, offensive. Like, any trigger warning possible can be slapped onto this book, and it's not even done in, like, a good way. I think it's just, like, for the sake of it being there. Macy is a horrible person. You know? Like, just because you're traumatized and disturbed doesn't mean you can just be a dick. You know what I mean? Like, this book is so all over the place, and, like, at the end, just sex trafficking gets thrown out there, and then the book ends. And I'm like, wait, what's happening? Like, it just went all over the place. There is no real conclusion, and that's not really a problem. But this book just kind of did nothing. There was no plot, really. It was just, like, happening. We were just in Macy's life while she did random shit that was just gross a lot of the times. Like, there's animal murder, slurs, but that's not really a problem. The author is black, I do believe, and like the N-word is fine. But like the R-word is used gratuitously to describe mentally disabled people. They use the R-word, which was kind of gross, like kind of really gross. I feel like it was just torture porn, kind of. Like, it was just throwing out triggering and gross and gritty things with no real reason for it to be happening. Like the animal murder. There's no reason for it to be that gratuitous or for it to really have happened. Like, I get that you're trying to drive home the point that, like, her life sucks. Like, it was just a lot of stuff happening with no real reason. I hated the characters, like I mentioned. They, personality-wise, sucked ass. I don't actually remember a lot of the plot, even though the plot doesn't even exist, really. So I can't really say anything else on it, just that it was, like, gross to read. Last but not least, we have What Unbreakable Looks Like by Kate McLaughlin. This was my last read of 2020, and I gave this 1 star, so that's great. This book follows a girl named Lex, and she was sex trafficked at the age of 16 with a bunch of other girls, and they all get rescued. Like, the motel that they were being trafficked at gets raided, they get rescued. She ends up in rehab for drug abuse and sexual assault, and then she ends up living with her aunt and uncle. She goes to a new school, and she gets a boyfriend, and that boyfriend ends up sexually assaulting her and kind of organizing her sexual assault by a lot of other people. And yeah, it's grim. This book, I think, wasn't written great. It is a debut novel, So I guess like that can be taken into account. The writing was a little interesting. The characters really flip-flopped. There was no really consistent characterization. The handling sex trafficking I thought was like not bad, although I do think the handling of trauma was bad. Obviously Lex is traumatized. She's got her own traumas going, but this book doesn't condemn her actions later when she attempts to assault a guy 3 times. Never really condemns it. She like apologizes, but he kind of laughs it off, and then they kind of joke about it later. It's never really condemned, and it bothers me because I feel like a lot of media kind of perpetuates this idea that if you have trauma, you can traumatize others, and that's an excuse. Like, it's not. Also, the guy that she attempts to assault 3 times ends up being her boyfriend, not the one who organized the sexual assault, like her end of the book boyfriend, who's like a good guy. I think this character also kind of illustrates that this is a debut novel, because he teleports. He's in almost every scene, and he's always there conveniently when he needs to be. She's about to get kidnapped again, he's there. She's walking out of her house, he's there. Her pimp is trying to get her again, he's there. And I think the reason he had to be in all these scenes is because he was the only redeemable man, or one of 2 redeemable men in this book. Every man other than like these 2 dudes are deplorable. I'm not here to defend the male population in its whole. Like, yes, there are shitty men, as with there are shitty women, but like, yes, statistically speaking, more rapists are men. But I'm a teenager, I go to high school, and I have male acquaintances, and I choose to believe that not all or even most teenage guys would behave the way these teenage guys behave. There's these pictures of her online, and these guys are so open about consuming, 1, child pornography, and 2, they mock and degrade her over being sex trafficked. And I'm sorry, even if you're a shitty teenage guy, I think we draw the line at sex trafficking. Personally speaking, I don't know any guys in my school who would do that. So it really took me out of it when I saw these people acting so bad. Like, yes, there are shitty people, but not everyone is shitty. So when you tell me that every teenage guy is shitty, every adult man is shitty, I'm just kind of like, no. Because everyone else is so deplorable, these 2 dudes that are actually okay stick out so much, and they feel like these great people. But in actuality, they're not even specifically amazing. They just have basic human decency, and I don't think that basic human decency should be rewarded. I think it should be expected. This book did not hit the spot for me. This is also one of my most anticipated reads of 2020, which I should probably stop anticipating books, because every time I anticipate a book, it's either a 1 or 2 star. So that's just great. But yeah, this is my last least fave. Before we wrap this video up, I'm going to give an honorary mention to a book that should have been on this list, and that is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. Quick synopsis: magical school. Great. I hate this book kind of a lot. I gave it 2 stars. The writing, it infodumps yet tells you nothing at the same time. I hate that the author constantly is telling me how powerful the main character is, but never shows it to me. Like, she does maybe 1 thing about this book. Maybe 2 if you want to give another thing to her. Otherwise, you never really see her abilities. It's really annoying. It basically just comes off like I'm not like other girls. The romance, what was that? It's so weirdly developed, and then at the end it's like, what's happening? The ending, rushed, not good, and boring. Like, the main character just sits there watching another dude doing shit. Like, I want to be in the action. All in all, didn't love this. Pacing, writing, just bad. I'm not going to pick them up again because they were heavy, because Crescent City is a big boy. Those are my least faves of 2020. What was your least favorite? I'm curious to see, because I like hearing people rant about things. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I've been Bailey. Bye.